Most people start building their workflow inside a tool, be it Excel, Notion, Airtable, HubSpot, whatever it is. But we're in 2026, and AI has changed that calculation. What I would like to talk about today is the process that happens before even writing that first prompt, something that most videos actually leave out. I'll be using my experience building my personal CRM to illustrate my points. So let's get into it. How to go about doing the thinking and planning for your own hyper-personalized AI tool. The first step was to set up this failure by design prototype, which is this quick imperfect file system whose job is to surface what you actually need. A few months ago, I started my own consulting practice. As part of my business development, I started reaching out to people to give me feedback. And like any reasonable, organized person, the first thing I did was to set up a Notion database to track my outreach efforts. But within 3 weeks, I had completely outgrown it. And this is not a failure. I know I was going to outgrow it at some point. In fact, I would call it a failure by design because I firmly believe that the function of the first system is to tease out what you actually need. So you should ideally set it up really quickly and get going. Once you've gathered a few insights, you can then use these to build your systems in a test, learn, improve loop. The second step is to define the problem precisely and accurately. So what are some of the problems I had experienced with my simple Notion CRM? First, the database told me nothing about what to do next. Who should I follow up with? When? What should I say? It was basically a structured data dump and not really an engine for my outreach. This is useful for remembering the interaction history, but it is just annoying to have to separately do project management around this. Second problem, I had no structured way to learn across rounds. Every conversation usually teaches me something. I was writing it down, contact by contact, in my notes, but consolidating any of that, I could have sat down and manually reviewed everything, but realistically, as a solopreneur, you don't really have time. That kind of meta work is the first thing that gets skipped. It's also hard to see patterns across different conversations. And third, this one is very specific to AI workflows. I'm on LinkedIn, which means every other post in my feed is someone telling me that, oh, AI-assisted workflows are the future, and the future is already here. I also want AI to work with my data. The problem is just Notion and Claude. They are friends, but not exactly best friends. The API is slow, and there are limits to how much data Claude can pull in one query. Bottom line is, I have huge FOMO, but the tool wasn't letting me act on it. When you're going through this exercise yourself, it's worth being very specific about how your current system is failing you. Not in abstract terms like, oh, this tool is too clunky, or this doesn't work well, but in concrete terms. What is it that you would like to do that this tool is not allowing you to do? This sounds really simple. It's actually harder than it looks. Often, when I work on these things with my clients, they get stuck. They know what they don't want, but articulating what they do want. One trick that works in my experience is to note down exactly when you feel annoyance, irritation, or any other low-grade frustration when using these tools. These emotional cues are signals to stop and ask yourself, what about it is making me feel this way? So what did I want to do but couldn't? Or what did I not want to do but have to? And then write it down there and then. Before I go into step 3 and 4, if you find this video useful so far, please don't forget to hit the like button below. Now that we've managed to put words to describe the problems we want to solve, the next step is to define decision criteria. These are guardrails which will help to shape your decision making, and there will be many decisions that you will have to make along the way, so it is important to set these guardrails up. I know, you're sitting there thinking, I've got 20 features that I've wanted to build yesterday. What decision criteria? Okay, just hear me out, okay? Most people, whether it's building or selecting a new tool, they start with features. They make a list. I want a Kanban view, I want bulk editing, I want email notifications, and then they go looking for something or build something that ticks most of these boxes. But if I could draw an analogy, I think of it like you're building a house. Typically, you wouldn't start by picking out windows and shutters and a roof without first deciding what kind of house you're building, right? Without an overall vision to organize them, you end up with something that doesn't quite hold together. These are individually fine, and you tick the boxes, but together, eclectic. Features work the same way. If you don't define what the system needs to be, You end up with a tool that ticks boxes without actually serving your workflow. Your decision criteria are the architectural brief. They define the overall shape of what you're building. So let me show you what that looked like for my personal CRM. My criteria, number 1, is that the tool has to reflect how I actually work and evolve with me. When I started my outreach, I had no real methodology. I was just reaching out to people and trying to get them to meet me for coffee. And then a friend said something that made me reconsider what I was doing. He pointed out that most people don't actually want to meet you for coffee unless they already have something to do with you. And that one observation completely reframed how I was thinking about outreach. It wasn't enough to just reach out. I needed every round of outreach to have a purpose, a message that is defined around a goal, which meant that I needed campaigns, cohorts, messaging scripts, structure I hadn't really anticipated needing when I first set up my Notion database. And here's the thing, I'm still learning. My process 3 months from now will probably look different again. So whatever that I was building has to be able to move with me and not lock me into the assumptions that I had in week 1. Criteria number 2, learning has to be built into the loop. I talked earlier about how my learnings were living inside my head, and I'm definitely not alone in this. From my observations, most people treat reflection and learning as something that you do after the work, if you have time, which means that it almost never happens systematically. I wanted to design a system where the learning loop isn't an optional extra, but rather something that is baked into the system. Such as, I will run a campaign, capture what I've learned, update the messaging, and then run the next campaign with better inputs. That cycle should be what the system is for, and it's not something that I then schedule on my calendar and then skip. Criteria number 3, AI as the primary operator, not a bolt-on. I'm a solopreneur. I don't have a team. AI is my team. The system, therefore, needs to be designed from the ground up for AI to work with, not AI features that is stuck onto an existing database. It has to have a format and structure that Claude, which is what I'm using, could actually read, reason about, and operate on intelligently. An AI-first system optimizes for possible, unambiguous text. That meant the file format, the folder structure, the naming conventions, all of it had to be designed with Claude in mind. Criteria number 4, I own the data, and it has to go anywhere I want the data to go to. Here's something worth saying directly. Notion, HubSpot, ClickUp has its own AI, and every major tool is building one right now. I don't think it's primarily because they've decided that AI is the best way to serve your workflow. It's because AI is the best way to keep you inside their ecosystem. This space is moving so fast, and I want to have the flexibility of working with a model that fits my needs the best. I want to choose my own AI. I don't want to be locked into a SaaS company that increases its prices from feature to feature and year to year. And that means I need to own my data outright in a format that any AI can access on my own terms without going through anyone's proprietary software format or API. Criteria number 5, the cost has to make sense now and later. I'm cheap. I said this before and I will keep saying it. The cost is a real consideration for any prudent solopreneur or small business owner. And when it comes to CRMs, the pricing landscape can get genuinely steep, fast. And then there's the vibe coding angle. Platforms like Base44, it will get you something working very quickly, but your backend is locked in the infrastructure forever. And the moment you decide on a web app versus a local one, you will have to start paying for hosting, for database, etc. And I looked at what I was already paying for. I had a Claude Code subscription at 20 euros per month, the monthly version. I had web hosting that I wasn't fully utilizing. I have OneDrive for file sync. I want to make sure that I fully utilize what I already pay for before evaluating what I could buy next. So these were my 5 criteria, and that is the lens through which everything gets filtered. At this point, you might be thinking, aren't some of these just a repackaging of your problems? Well, partly yes. Your problems are one of the inputs, but things like cost efficiency, data ownership, AI portability, these were not actually in the initial problems. They came from somewhere else. Your unique set of decision criteria will also come from various places, including the problems that you've defined. But more importantly, they will emerge from your other existing context. If you have no idea where to look, here are some suggestions. Your existing tool stack, your principles, and your expectations of the future. When you're thinking about your decision criteria, try not to get carried away. Because the more constraints you have in place, the more complicated you will make your decision making. And the more complicated your decision making is, the slower you will be. Aim for 3 to 5, maximum 7. Ultimately, a good set of decision criteria should be able to help you eliminate options. They're not here to inspire you. They're here to make sure you stay on the right track so that you don't fall into the feature trap. And that is, wasting a lot of time and effort building out features that you don't actually need and doesn't serve your core purpose. The last step, step 4, is to translate all of these to features. Once I had my decision criteria clear, I opened Claude Code and described what I was trying to build. I shared the context, what I've been trying to do in Notion, what isn't working, what I wanted the system to do, and what my decision criteria are. And of course, also some of the features that I've already thought of. I then asked Claude to give me suggestions for features I'd miss out, but could be useful. And I asked it to ask me any clarifying questions. And last but not least, to produce a product requirement document, or a PRD for short. What mattered here isn't my exact prompt, is what happened next. Claude produced the PRD, I read the PRD carefully, I pushed back on anything that didn't fit my criteria, I answered Claude's questions, and we refined it together until it was something that I'm confident in before Claude produced a single line of code. This is a step I would strongly encourage you not to skip. And here's why. Claude has rate limits. Depending on your plan, you are given a specific number of tokens. If you waste your tokens building random shit, thinking that you could just ask Claude to rebuild over and over again, your tokens won't last a minute. I'm on my €20 subscription, and the next plan starts at $100. If I'm cheaping out on a €25 subscription for Notion Pro, do you think I want to pay $100 per month for Claude Max? But beyond money, this also affects your time. Every hour you spend evaluating a feature you didn't actually need is an hour you're not spending on your actual business. The PRD is how you protect that time. A lot of AI demos make this look like a one-click process. It really isn't. And when you're in the AI euphoria, it's very easy to get carried away. So having the PRD anchors you, and it also helps you pace yourself. Remember, you're here to build useful tools for your business, not novelty toys. We've seen snippets of the CRM, and now I'm going to walk you through how I use my CRM in the context of the campaign, all the way to a review of the cohort with AI. Remember that this is evolving, and if you see something that could improve my process, please let me know in a comment below. All right, before I walk you through a full campaign cycle, let me orient you very quickly. This is the dashboard. The UI is very simplistic because it's a personal tool. And everything that you see here, be it a contact or a campaign, they can all be opened as single markdown files with an editor like Obsidian or any other text editor. Let's start at the top. I will show you how to create a new campaign. Just go to Campaign and click New Campaign. A campaign in the CRM is an outreach initiative with a specific goal. I give it a name, a description, a mode. In this case, we have 2 modes to choose from, either a discovery mode or a sales mode. These will give you different statuses. A goal, an offer. This is the product that you're offering to this group of people. The status, pretty self-explanatory. A start and end date, who the target audience is, and also the success criteria. So I won't create the campaign because I already have 2 mock campaigns here. Let me just open one of them to show you how it looks like. Clicking on a campaign will bring you to the campaign dashboard. In here, you see an overview of the campaign as well as some key stats. The first thing I want to do after creating the campaign is to create a cohort. To do this, I just click on cohorts, add a new cohort. I won't be doing this here because I already have a mock cohort that you can see here. A cohort is a subset of contacts within a campaign. Think of it as a task group. It could be people within a specific industry, a specific warmth level, or just the first 20 people that I'm reaching out to. The reason why I use cohorts is because of my test, learn, improve logic. I don't reach out to everyone at once. I run a smaller group first, see what works, capture the learnings, and then run the next cohort with better inputs. Every cohort should make the next one smarter. Each cohort gets its own sub-goal, its own start and end date, and this is important, its own set of questions to ask and message templates to use, and that is a playbook. Before I reach out to anyone, I think through, how do I craft this message? How do I describe my offer? And what questions do I want to ask? Writing this all down before I start forces me to be intentional. It also means that when I do the cohort review later, I can compare what I planned to say against what actually landed. Over here, you can see the file name of the playbook, also in Markdown, obviously. And you can also edit the playbook directly here in the CRM. So how do we add context to the cohort? To do that, what you want to do is to go to context, and you can either select the context and bulk add them to a specific campaign, or you can also just open a contact and add them to a campaign. Now, each contact can be added to multiple campaigns. So this contact, for example, I've added to both campaigns. Whenever I have an interaction with a contact, I can lock this by clicking on this lock interaction button, or I go to interactions and I click lock interaction. There are 4 most important pieces of content here. The first part is, of course, the content. I usually just paste the meeting minutes in here, then followed by the outcome. The key takeaways, these could be insights that I have gotten from that person. Everything that we've entered in takeaways will be aggregated in a cohort level. And last but not least, the next steps, along with the due dates. These things show up on the front of the dashboard. Once the cohort is running, I can use the Kanban view, it says pipeline, is the Kanban view to track where everyone is. You can, of course, also filter by specific campaigns, and you move things around with drag and drop. Before I get on a call with someone, I can also use Claude to help me prepare for the call. So assuming that I'm going to call Aiko Tanaka here next week. So how would I do that with the help of Claude? I have a meet. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so it seems like Claude is done helping me prepare for this call. Let's go back to the CRM and see what has been written in there. So I go back to the CRM. Don't forget to refresh. And I look for Aiko again, look at the interactions, and you can see here there is a call prep that is added in here. And here you can see the details of what Claude has written. And Claude has actually written quite a bit of stuff. So this is a lot of the preparations that you would otherwise have to read the contact file, read the playbook, and then put them together. And basically this saved me quite a lot of time preparing for the calls. So as the campaign and cohort progresses, the CRM consolidates all the learnings across all the contexts. So let me show you how that looks like. When I scroll down the cohorts, these are the consolidated takeaways logged in different contexts and also across different interactions. Instead of having 6 different notes buried in 6 different files, I can actually see all the patterns emerging directly in one view. I can then write my own reflections under here, learnings. And this is honestly my favorite feature, and it's the view that I couldn't get in Notion directly. And of course, once I'm done with this, and assuming that I have different cohorts, I can also just go to the Learnings tab and read all the learnings of the campaign in one place. Pretty cool, right? At the end of the cohort, I can also get Claude to run a review with a skill. And the skill is saved in the .claude folder. And what you have to do is to make sure that you download the skill folder from OneDrive. And you can essentially just ask Claude to run the skill directly, even if it doesn't show up within the slash, using the slash command method. And I was very curious what kind of output I'll be getting based on the dummy data, but I think is really quite interesting. So as you can see here, we have outreach stats. We also have what landed, what didn't land, the themes from the calls, positioning signals, recommended messaging tweaks, ICP observations, priority follow-ups, tests for the next cohort, and If I want to take it one step further, I can actually ask Claude to prepare the playbook for the next cohort. This is, I think, a huge time saver. And this is also something that I'm pretty excited about and why I built the system in the first place. Yeah, so this is the loop. Campaign, cohort, outreach, learning, better cohort. And this is like a self-perpetuating system, and you're getting better with each round. And that is the whole point. I just have one closing note. So if you want to install the CRM for yourself, you have to install Node.js. It is a runtime environment that allows you to run JavaScript on your computer. And what you have to do is to just go to nodejs.org and download this, depending on what system that you're running. Once you have this installed, download the CRM zip file from the link in the description, unzip it, go to apps. So here's the folder. Go to app, and then double click on start.bat. And this is how you start running the CRM. So that's it. That's my CRM. As a recap, here's my 4-step framework. Number 1, build a failure by design. A quick, imperfect for a system whose job is to surface what you really need. Number 2, define the problems, precisely using emotional cues as signals. Number 3, define your decision criteria. 3 to 5, max 7, architectural brief before any feature discussion. Number 4, translate to features with a PRD to anchor the build. If you follow this framework, I'm almost 100% sure you'll have an easier time and better results than simply starting with feature list. If you think the CRM might be useful for you, I am giving this away for free. The download link is in the description. You are free to adapt it to whatever you need. Fire up Claude Code and build upon it. Using this as a basis, I think, could save you some time. And if you do end up taking it somewhere interesting, just drop me a message. I would love to know how you've changed this around. All I ask for is a like on this video and maybe save it for a future reference. But more importantly, this video is not really about my CRM. It's about my thinking process prior to the vibe coding. And I hope that shedding some light on that could be useful for you when you're designing your own tool. I hope this video has been helpful. My name is Victoria Anglet, and if you would like to see more content like this, don't forget to subscribe. I would also really appreciate any feedback or ideas for future videos. See you in the next one.